The show today brought to you by the Academy of Orthopedic Physical Therapy, the leaders in orthopedic physical therapy. Find them online at orthopt.org. Now, with their current concepts of physical therapy in their 5th edition, it can help you prepare for that OCS examination. Find them online at orthopt.org. The Brooks Institute of Higher Learning gives you advanced post-professional education with 7 on-site PT residencies, including orthopedics, women's health, pediatrics, sports, and neurology, as well as an OMPT fellowship, all focused on experiential learning. Find out more at brooksihl.org.
He's laughing. Did you not see that intro? I made that last week.
No, I've never seen that. For a second, I thought it said glub, like GLUB, but it was glove, obviously.
Well, maybe I've got to go back into Canva and like adjust that one. Like, that's how easy those things were. I mean, I knew someone in TV news when I was in radio, and like those packages, like the transition packages. Now, of course, like, you know, when it's your business, you're going to do like a high end version, but like tens of thousands of dollars, like, and it would take months, and then they would get there and they would huddle around the monitor and like watch, like, what are our new transition packages? Okay, show me the breaking news one again, and they would get all hyped. But so yeah, that's ours. That's our PT Club in the morning. Good morning. It's Tuesday. Tony and I ventured all the way to the nation's capital and then made it home, now we're back.
Dave, what have you been up to?
Baby dude.
Same old. Just working on and continuing to onboard this new therapist, get him busier and busier. All is well.
Let's talk about that, because I just posted literally before we got on. The number one thing that I heard from everybody I talked to that was a private practice owner was not that they needed patients, of course, all the normal complaints about reimbursement. It was recruiting and hiring.
Yeah.
Everybody was challenged with recruiting and hiring. Tell us a little bit about, how did you find this person? Now, I see your LinkedIn posts. I see your social media. You're putting it out there, because I'm thinking about dipping a toe in that water in a different way. But I want to hear what you did to find somebody.
I'll be happy to get into it. Also, as a sidebar cliffhanger, if you want another topic today or Thursday, someone reached out to me on LinkedIn to run my Facebook ads for free. I'm getting free Tony Maritato juju, the way that, you know, all these companies are sending Tony Maritato, you know, very expensive, tens of thousands of dollars of equipment, or hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars of equipment. I got someone reached out, and we're setting up my ads manager right now, because I said on a recent podcast that Google ads grew my whole practice from nothing, and Facebook ads have failed from like 2 or 3 different agencies. That guy, I'll mention it later, listened to the show, sent me a cold email, a cold DM on LinkedIn stating what he heard of what I said, so I couldn't deny it. And he's like, "Hey, I'll run the ads for free, no management fee, as long as, you know, if it crushes for you," which he's an e-commerce expert apparently. He's like, "I want to use this as free content to then sell some physical therapy products." So that's the company. So he wants to sell physical products to you, Tony, owners, stretch bands, a whole bunch of stuff. So he's going to use my potential Facebook ads as a case study to attract more owners, like the way that we put out content to attract owners.
Smart. Hey,
so anyway, that's a sidebar.
Before we move on, I really need a new car. So if just putting it out there that it just really stinks not having a car, not being able to go anywhere. Okay, continue.
Someone reach out from, Classic Chevrolet or something. Someone reach out to Jimmy McKay. GMC with the new crab walk, the Hummers that can park themselves. Send one of those to Jimmy McKay, please.
I don't know. I'd crash one of those. All right. So we're talking onboarding. You want to talk about that?
Recruitment, like attracting the right therapist to fit the culture. What are you doing for that, Dave?
I'm doing a couple things. And I think as an owner, you should be doing multiple things. You cannot just do one thing. So historically, I literally had no idea what I was doing. I was stumbling into my own LinkedIn ads, my own Indeed ads. And they, it was okay. Then I pay Spree McKay and PT Match. The website is ptmatch.io. You can check them out online. It's like a matchmaking service. They will recruit candidates. They actually write my Indeed ads better than I probably can. They write my LinkedIn ads and other ads. You pay them like a small fee up front. It's nothing. It's like $400 for like 3 or 4 months. And then you don't pay until you hire someone, you have them work in your practice for 2 months, then you pay them a recruiting fee. But that's after you found a really great candidate who's going through your onboarding process. So that's a paid channel. And then also, I said it other times here on the show and my show, that I will go on LinkedIn and I will just make connections with therapists, and I send them a very short message, which we can get into. I'll send it to them as a cold intro DM. And then also I post basically the same thing on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I post it everywhere. Very nice folks like Jimmy and Boba Benko and other folks will retweet it and reshare it and all that. So those are basically my main channels, couple free, couple paid.
That's it, right? I mean, it's funny how you know something and then someone puts words to it. And it was Alex Hormozy who just said the thing the 400th time and then it stuck. It's like there's 3 ways to get customers. There's 3 ways to get employees. It's like there's paid channels, there's organic channels, and then there's meeting people in person, right? There's that word of mouth. So so the one thing I would say is when I hear therapists say anything about patients or recruiting is like, I do everything on word of mouth, and I would be nervous. Like any one channel would make me nervous. I'm not saying you can't have one that performs better, but if you're not at least prepared, let's put it this way, prepare to do all 3. Because when one of those pipelines stops, getting that momentum or beginning to try to figure the other 2 out or 1 out, like that would make me nervous. So at least understand those 3 things.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I'm going to be looking at, so Dave and I had this whole conversation where we were talking about, my next PTA is going on maternity leave within a couple of weeks. And am I going to hire a therapist, or what am I going to do? And I was on the verge of going the recruitment route, but then I got scared and I backed out, and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I can't do it.
Why? What was the fear?
So that's a great question. Why? And these are the real, and I'm going to say they're insecurities. I really think it is. They're insecurities on my part that I think we all go through, we all deal with in different ways. My insecurities are, do I want to bring in a therapist? And these are just preconceived notions that think they know everything and don't want to learn anything about us, about the culture. Do I want to bring in a therapist that, I'm going to have to battle with, which has happened in the past where I'm like, okay, that's the way you want to do it. This is the way we want to do it. How are we going to find some sort of compromise? And really, it's, do I want to bring in a therapist that if it doesn't work out, that I'm going to have that conversation with and fire, I'm breaking up before we ever even get to the breakup part. I'm assuming the firing is 3 weeks from now. I'm assuming it's going to be a bad outcome. I'm making all of these arbitrary assumptions because of my own insecurities. That's the reality of it.
Tony's on Tinder, swiping right, and then saying, I'm sorry, it's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
No, it's like he's not even downloading the dating app.
It's true. But I did get a little inspiration from PPS this week.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, so I'm talking to these product companies, which I guess Jimmy and I are going to explore, Dave and I are going to explore in separate podcasts and interviews. But I'm like, well, I guess if there's this product that I think would be kind of cool to bring into the clinic. Maybe I could recruit a therapist to kind of spearhead this product launch. And it's a therapist. So the one I'll talk about right now real quick is the Run DNA. So they have the motion analysis and the gait and all this stuff. And I'm like, there are therapists out there that are obsessed with running. They love running. They're passionate about running. Could I recruit a therapist to come in and run, pun intended, the Run DNA program for me in my clinic, and other things like that? I feel like there's less of a head-to-head. They're going to do their thing and I'm going to do my thing, and I'm not taking the running program, it's theirs. So I might dip a toe in that water, a different way to make it work. What were you going to say, Jimmy?
Yeah. I mean, that one feels like a layup, right?
Yeah.
Like Run DNA, Doug and his team have like got it down there. I mean, I don't know if you were over talking to Doug at their booth at PPS. Like they're like done, not done with running, but like they've got running on lock. They're into walking now. Like they've taken his technology, which he like essentially built. Like he was just like, he went out there and was like, there's no running analysis that does this. So he like worked with engineers, and now they have this like computer, this camera system that does that. They're onto walking now because they're like, it's not the same thing. It's terribly important, and it's something your patients need. So they just modified their technology to now do walking analysis too. I think walking and running would be a layup to have someone be the running PT in your area.
So here's my backdoor into that is obviously I've got the community for total knee replacement. That is right up there with walking. Yep. The biggest complaint for knee replacement is I'm not walking normally. They typically don't have terminal knee extension, the full range of motion. So it's like I can take in the walking aspect. I've already got the community. I've already got the resources. I've got the facility. So again, I can bring a therapist in for running. I could do the walking. We can marry those two from one technology. And then I was also thinking, my oldest son just turned 16 while we were at PPS. He's doing cross country. I shared a reel this morning, a cross country reel. I'm like, I've got an in with local athletes. I've got the runners. I've got volleyball. I've got basketball. My other nephews are playing at a high level in high school sports. So I'm like, there's so many resources I have at my fingertips. It would be silly for me not to do something with this. And it just gives me an opportunity to recruit a therapist who's highly passionate, who I could probably pay double what they would make working in an outpatient clinic down the road. So now not only do I get the benefit of the best therapist, I also have cash pay services that are going to pay them at the highest possible level. And nobody else here has a running analysis system. Nobody else here has the other hardware products that I was looking at PPS. So there's just so many things that we could do with this. That's why I need you guys and bounce these ideas around, and we can do it publicly so we can kind of flesh it out a little bit better. Dave, what are you thinking?
And speaking about publicly, like if you're a therapist that is even close to the Ohio area that likes to work with runners, you should absolutely reach out to Tony. Go, Total Therapy Solutions, find their website, call in, schedule, like whatever you want them to do. You tell us, but send the resume, call in, speak to your front desk person, inquire about this, because this is, you guys could learn so much clinically, not just about a little bit more with running with the technology, but even I believe Tony and how you guys operate and how you interact with patients and clients and film content and everything in between in terms of like all the, shout out to Rob Vining, all the old, MacGyver things that Tony has done in terms of like interventions and techniques to get patients to relax and feel better and move better and all that. So also if someone's not in Ohio, this would be an opportunity to relocate, in my opinion.
Yeah. And to that point, hang on one second, Jimmy. To that point, the other conversation I had around recruitment and hiring at PPS was, why are we not creating our own celebrities within the profession? Like, why are we not elevating new grads and newer therapists to this celebrity status, building their Instagram, building their social media, knowing that they're going to leave? That's okay. That's the whole purpose of being with me in the foundational years, so that we can build your brand and then you can go on to the next level. What were you going to say, Jimmy?
Well, I'll play off that. It was so funny because when I was coming out of PT school, I was, of course, a second career student. So I think clinic directors would talk to me differently than they would my roommates. And yeah. Look, I can't let this guy get that known. It's got to be about the clinic because I don't want to lose that. They were like so afraid of like hiring someone, losing someone if they were good, that I was like, well, why wouldn't you just like give those people what they deserve, right? Like, which is like, this person is great. You should come see them. Well, if you build your business on that and they leave, what happens? And then the reverse of that is, what if you don't and they never come, or you don't build them on them and they don't get what they're looking for, what they deserve, and then they leave anyway, right? There's that whole adage of, what does it cost What if we give continuing education to someone, right? Put career advancement to someone at our company, and they get so smart and they leave.
Right.
What if you don't, and they have a bunch of dumb people at your company? For now, you got a bunch of dumb loyal people who can't go anywhere. Like Gary Vee is famous for saying, if someone poaches one of my girls or one of my guys, he's like, awesome, I've made that person poachable. Isn't that, as a business owner, like what I'm really supposed to do? Who's next? Like that was drilled into me. Maybe it was drilled into me more than I thought with my GM in radio, which is like, who's next? Who do you got? Like, understand what job you're now in, Jimmy. You're still on the air, but your primary function was program director, like clinic director. Who's next? Who are the people you're cherry picking? And I used to turn bartenders, supermarket checkout people. They didn't need licenses to be a radio DJ, but I would turn like random people. I would turn beer reps, people. I'd turn up a couple of beer girls into like late night radio DJs. It's all about the giggles. So, I mean, recruiting seems to be that thing at PPS. It's not going anywhere.
So Dave, I'm curious in your situation. I know you pay more than a lot of other places. I know you see like the perfect clientele for so many people. Why do you think you're not getting more inbound applications, more therapists who want to do what you're doing? Is it just not getting enough reach out there, not telling them? Are they scared to make the change? Like, what do you think is holding therapists back?
How much are you getting? Let's start with like, and then go to that question. Like,
are you getting no. So what's great is last week I got 3 therapists to reach out to me, and they were referring to these organic posts on LinkedIn. So they're not even, this is not an application through Indeed or like, it's kind of funny. Like, and people like some of these therapists, like they don't even click into my profile, I guess, or they don't do the next step of clicking into the website and finding the hiring tab, filling the application out and sending it in, which is fine. Like maybe, I don't know, like I'm trying to be flexible. Maybe this is the new age of how people interact. I don't know, with potential opportunities. I mean, for me, I would just go, typically I would go like the full formal route. Like if I was really curious about it. Back in my day, make me feel old. So last week I had an OT and 2 PTs send me a message, and it basically said something like, I saw your post about an opening for an OT or a PT taking house calls in Manhattan and Brooklyn. I would like to learn more about the position. And then it would be like something about them, like I'm a new grad, or I've got whatever years of experience and currently working at wherever. Hope to hear from you soon. So then what's interesting, guys, and I would love your feedback now. I'll reply as soon as I can. Thanks for reaching out. Can you complete this form? Basically, it's an application with like your information and upload your resume at this link. Now, the one person was looking for like strictly PRN, and I just don't have the time because I realized how much time and effort it takes to like onboard and train a new therapist. And I want to do like brain dump, like here's our culture, like you said, Tony, here's what we do, here's our core values, like here's all the things we do. And it just doesn't make sense for me to do that if a therapist is seeing like 1 or 2 patients a week or 1 or 2 visits a week. So the one therapist had asked for PRN. So then I like, that's not going to work. Sorry. Like we're looking for like at least 20 hours a week or more, ideally full-time, 40 hours. So that one therapist is out. The other 2 have not completed the application on the website yet, which maybe I shouldn't worry about. And go back to Tony and what you said is like, I just continue to need more reach. I need to get this in front of more therapists. That's why I posted the salary number, which is whatever I wrote, up to 120K, like pretty good. And also, other than traveling around the city, you're only seeing like 4 to 6 patients a day. So I know it's not for everyone. It's not for every therapist, but that's just a little bit more of the steps of what I've seen over the last week. Any feedback in terms of like, I mean, should I expect these therapists to actually fill out the application? Like, give me some feedback.
I guess it's good that they haven't, right? Because it's show versus tell. Like, all right, not that interested. But
well, that's the thing. Back in my day, when we were looking at recruiting, and I'm going to say 15 to 20 years ago, we would intentionally add friction to the recruitment process. We would intentionally weed out people that couldn't follow simple directions. And I remember we had a test that we would give them if they did make it through, just to follow instructions. And it was a series of like 12 or 15, do this, do this, do this. And it's shocking how few people could actually read and follow the instructions. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know if it's a situation where we're not getting the message to the right people. I don't know if it's a situation where, you know, like you said, it's a different economy, a different state of mind. I don't know. But that goes back to my original point when we started today's convo. I don't know that I want to go down that road. I don't know if I want to be frustrated again. I don't know if I want to put myself out there again. It is like dating. I mean, we're talking about long-term relationships. We're talking about tying money together. We're talking about time together. We're talking about expectations. Probably worse than dating. So I just don't know.
And another thing, so like, what was it, like 2 months ago or less, a month and a half ago, when we came live call at Tony, it was like, he's like, I got to go to the clinic because your PT or PTA was sick or call it out or whatever. Like, and you didn't complain. I will give you credit. You didn't complain. You didn't say what, you know, you didn't have an issue with that. You went and did it. You said, you know, take care of yourself, whatever. So the point of bringing that up is like, an owner out there cannot complain if they're in that situation because they're not going the route of employment. Like I want to be able to offload, you know, like last week I saw one patient, 2 visits total for the whole, all of last week. So I'm trying to get out of patient care. I want to grow the practice, grow the business. So you guys can let me know, like if I ever start complaining about anything like with delegation or whatever, it's like that's on me because I'm not putting these people in the right roles, or upstream I'm not finding people and I'm not doing enough creative things or enough volume of work or whatever to actually get more of these potential candidates in my world.
So we'll get into the more nitty-gritty observations from PPS, but Jimmy, just kind of big takeaway picture. What were you thinking when you left and you were on your way back to New York?
Yeah, it was like who was there and what was everybody talking about? So like who spent the money to be there because they think they have solutions, and they've obviously been listening to the masses and they're saying we have a solution, here it is in full technicolor. And then I just stand next to people at a conference and I ask them a question and then my goal is like get them to just talk. Like I know a lot of people go to like those parties afterwards for like the free drinks, and I'm not saying that's bad. Please don't stop that. But I'm going to see like, what is everybody else complaining about? Why are you here? Why'd you come to this? What are the biggest problems that you have? And then who's actually at PPS, right? It's the big companies. I picture this, and I was saying this yesterday in my staff meeting at Vestibular First, because they were like curious. They're like, was there neuro equipment there? Should Vestibular First, it was sort of a fact-finding mission. Should Vestibular First be a vendor? Should we be presenting like in the expo hall? Should we be looking and showing the technology? And it's just funny, like who goes to those things. And I picture there's 2 PPSs. One is everybody you see, right? And the second is like that scene from Austin Powers where like all the evil villains are like sit like Odd Job with the hat and the guy with the glass eye. They're all in meeting rooms that you can't see doing big deals that that you're going to see in 2 years from now because they made a deal or they met at PPS. So that those are like the 2 different PPSs. So who was paying to be there? And what's the gripe? What's the big problem? Everybody's looking. You just paid $1,500, flew across the country. Staying at the Gaylord ain't cheap. What is your problem? What are you actually here to solve? So I pay attention to those things. I don't know if you want to get into like what I thought those problems were.
Yeah, let's talk about one. While you're thinking about it real quick, Dave, kind of in your world, and this is kind of an aside, I ran into the guy that I credit with me becoming a physical therapist. It's funny, you know, so real quick backstory, I was doing an internship for my undergrad degree in kinesiology. I was working for a hospital-owned outpatient clinic in a YMCA. I had never heard of physical therapy. I had no idea what physical therapy was. There was a clinic upstairs. My person from the YMCA introduced me to a guy named Scott Porter. He was a physical therapist, but the director of rehab. And we built a relationship. I started volunteering for the clinic, and then I became a hired aide for the clinic. Anyway, he's the guy I credit with like my business and how I got started. And he's the first person I talked to about opening a clinic. I ran into him for the first time in like, gosh, it must have been 15, 18 years. I saw him walking in. Long story short, he was the CEO of a company called Fitness Quest. They had 16 locations. They just announced in August that they were acquired by, is it Concentra? Is that the, yeah. And now he's still the CEO there, but it's, you know, they're a partner company owned by Concentra. So I was getting all the scoop on that. And then I found out his daughter, who I remember as like a child, I mean, 5 years old, was one of the main stars on the reality show, the MTV show Siesta Key, which of course, Siesta Key is where I grew up. So she, like, all these crazy connections came out. But as soon as I heard about the acquisition, of course, I was thinking about Dave Kittle. So Jimmy, what were you thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, like the things that I saw, the writing on the wall, outside of like patient recruitment and hiring, in terms of like big business, came down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 letters. It was all about the EMRs. It's all about AI, and it's all about M&A. So those were the three different things, or the 3 big topics that I saw everybody like sort of whispering about, right? EMRs. And we could do we could do a series on this. I mean, I joked around in our group chat, like we should do March Madness, like which EMR is the best, right? Which is the 1 seed, which is the crafty veteran. AI, you know, in terms of like we did a live stream with Sarah Health, like that's RTM. Like, so if I was going to put more letters in there, it would be RTM. So EMR, AI, M&A, and RTM is who's solving these things, right? And a lot of people are flirting with this. I think the people that go to PPS and put up that kind of money and time and effort are likely on a little bit more on the advanced side of that bell curve, like early adopters, because they're looking and sniffing. But it's like the number one old tried and true, who's spending the most money, whose attention and tech is it worth it? It's those EMRs. So the 3 that were duking it out in terms of spend anyway were Raintree, WebPT, and Prompt. I mean, those were the 3 who were like, we are going to woo you. We are going to spend for you. We are going to be in front of you. We're going to pay attention to you. And you tell us everything. Oh, tell us all your problems and your wants and desires. So
what about Net Health? Net Health, I don't know, but they were in there.
They had a party, right?
What's that?
Didn't they have a big party? Didn't they host a party?
They all hosted a party. Every one of them. I mean, I could have gone to like all 3. I mean, if you timed it right, you could have gone to all 3.
It sounded like Jimmy had an all-nighter.
I played beer league men's hockey last night. That's why I sound like I smoked a pack of cigarettes. Is we played a
no. When you were at PPS though, you said you had a late night.
I mean, it's funny. It's like you're in that conference environment, and like I hate to say, like, oh my gosh, part of the job is talking all the time. But like when you talk for like 24 or 36 hours straight, like you do all of a sudden, like I think Tony and I even said it, like, man, I gotta be quiet for a while on the ride home. Like you're a little hoarse.
Yeah. So with them duking it out, they were just the top layer, because then you had all these second layer newer entrants into the market.
Yep.
I had never heard of several of these companies that were really trying to create a name for themselves, trying to get, you know, on the board. I just don't understand how somebody looks at this market and says, I want to start an EMR for PTOT SOP.
Yeah. I mean, the other ones that I could mention, you mentioned Net Health. Empower EMR has been a sponsor of my podcast for a while, but they went by a different name. So like a lot of people were looking at them for the first time, but they weren't, because they were MW Therapy and now they're Empower EMR. The fun part too is 25 years ago, you probably need an entire company full of people. And like something like an Empower is still a full company, but like you needed 1,000 people to run. I mean, how many, did you see this? Oh man, I can't believe I don't have the screenshots. Somebody, maybe Dave, like, or Tony, well, you're on the phone. The headquarters for Epic, I don't know if these are fake or not, but it looks like something Walt Disney would have designed. It's like the headquarters of Epic, the EMR, is like a joke. It's like like Lego wizards that are 10 feet tall and yellow brick roads and castles. I'm like, this isn't real. But anyway, like my point is like 15, 20 years ago.
I'm pretty sure they're like a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah, but that's the thing, and of course the therapists get a hold of this, and they're like, "Oh, wonder where all the money goes to." It's like, "Oh, they got a 20-foot tall wizard Lego brick person," but you needed like 1,000 or 10,000 people behind the scenes at Epic to run a really great company that did something that made a product like that. And now with software, you don't. Like I don't know how many people are like at an Empower EMR, but it's not 1,000, right? It might be 50. Or less, because some of those people don't have to be full time, right? Like you could have offshore people, you could have people who are PRN, like even in that software game. So there are a lot of options, and some people just love it because that's their thing and they don't want to change. So, but the EMR they get long term. Well, we're talking about this with someone. Why are they paying so much? How can this company throw this party every year and still make money? I was like, they understand to flip a Dave Kittle or a Tony Maritato in their clinic, that lifetime value. They're charging you, a lot of them per therapist per month or however their pricing are.
Very sticky.
That adds up, right? Because changing is that tough thing, right? It's that emotional, it's that overhaul. So when they flip you, they understand what that's worth.
So I'd be curious, Dave, I don't know if you saw the post, an OT, I won't mention names, said, if somebody, an EMR company is spending $500,000 on this event, what else could they have done with that money? Why are they not, how many sponsorships of APTA, AOTA memberships could they have paid for? How could they put that money to use in other ways? You're coming out of the tech world. You've seen tons of money spent on stuff like this. Like, what do you think, Dave, about, is $500,000 the best way to spend that money for an EMR company on a week-long event, or should they be putting that money somewhere else?
I mean, to meet a concentrated group of your ideal customer, the owners, practice owners, makes a ton of sense, right? So like over the years, WebPT and all the others, like, and even now, actually Prompt, by the way, in terms of paid marketing, Prompt, the video, have you seen the video? Maybe they made like 6 months ago or a year ago. We were just watching like a football game or a playoff game. They paid for a national commercial. That video was a commercial, and maybe it was only certain markets, but like I saw it on our smart TV. I don't forget what channel it was.
Wait, what app do you use to watch TV? Is it local cable or YouTube TV?
No, the Amazon Fire Stick. Then we have like a Direct TV login. So I think we were on like regular cable though, like Direct TV. I don't remember what channel, but for a tech company, like if you're looking to buy an EMR, right? And it's like, there's all these different choices, and I've been there. It's like, you don't want to make the wrong decision. Like you don't want to pick like the wrong vendor. You're right. I got to import my old information, my old data into the new EMR. And it is so sticky. Once you make a decision, it is extremely challenging to then switch again. So of course they spend a lot of time on the marketing, on the new customer acquisition costs and the onboarding of a new customer. And in some cases, like if you have a couple of clinics or more, that company, the EMR will they'll say like, we'll have someone that will just import all your data. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to lift a finger. You don't have to do anything. So yes, it makes a lot of sense to spend a lot of money for the marketing, the awareness on the front end of the funnel, the top of the funnel. But yeah, I think it's a great idea to be spending the money that they do at PPS, because they can have a booth. Then you actually can engage with, like at Prompt, there's Mike Dwyer, there's a bunch of folks, but I talked to Mike years ago, and you have to have some human touch, and it helps to have a human touch in our physical therapy world. So have some human touch with someone at one of these EMRs. Years ago, I used to go to the WebPT Ascend conference. Yeah. And I knew Kevin, I knew, oh my gosh, is it Nate? There was a bunch of folks that I knew like by name, and they were not PTs. And like we talked on Instagram and LinkedIn, and we would Jake Nero, he left physical therapy, he's doing some other software company. These guys were in enterprise sales, and I had their cell phone numbers. Yeah, and I never decided to use WebPT, but that is the power. Like, can the EMR companies have their team members have their numbers stored in a practice owner's cell phone? I think that's super powerful, and you cannot do that with online marketing.
Yeah. And I think really, we see it in sports, right? How much do they pay to have the business name up on the arena? And it's like, is that business name on the arena going to make me become a customer of that company? Is it worth it? I don't know. I really don't know, but it's been a strategy that's been utilized forever, as long as businesses existed. So, yeah, it's an interesting approach.
Raintree was another one.
Yeah.
Because that's what, just as you talked about the guy that like got you into PT, that was in the first 4.5 seconds of you walking into PPS. That was like the first, like, hey, Tony. And I'm like, oh, this guy knows Tony. He's like, I haven't seen the guy in 20 years. And he was the guy who got me into PT. I'm like, that PPS, where you meet people you haven't seen in 20 years. And it was funny. It was like how PPS was arranged, how the expo hall was arranged, because after you hit those monster booths of the EMRs, that's where you had the Sarah Healths for RTM. That's where you had the Prediction Health for artificial intelligence. So now it's these things, that these peripherals, right? These things you add on or you incorporate as well. Just open a new tab and there's that tab. So you have your home screen. So let me ask you this though, from two guys who understand technology and therapy, I'm not going to say like named companies, but RTM or AI, they're just going to buy one of them, right? Like these AI companies, like these AI like listening apps are like duking it out now, or figuring out like it's a live beta test. Everyone's sniffing and liking and commenting. These big companies, these EMR companies, they're looking to see who the last one is or the last couple are, and they're going to buy these, right? And just incorporate them. That's how it works.
So I've got the inside track on that.
Ooh, hang on.
And it's one of those
Breaking
things.
news.
That's the first thing that I said when I joined HippoScribe, was talking to Jansen. I was like, why would an EMR company either not just create their own,
right,
or not buy and acquire an existing AI scribe? You know, and so in communication with Jansen, who is the founder of HippoScribe and the developer, like he's the technical brain behind it all, he effectively said they probably can't make their own because they can't get the engineers. The engineers that are creating the technology for an AI scribe are doing their own. They're funded by VCs. You can't hire them to come into an EMR company. That was number one. And that's what we see in therapy, right? The number one complaint is I can't find good qualified therapists.
Where are they?
I could probably scrape the bottom of the barrel, but they're happy and they're getting compensated when they're the best. So we can't recruit those.
Which goes back, which goes back to your celebrity idea, which is give some people what they want, which is, and a lot of them like will call you. There's some PT practices that now, like after a certain amount of years or certain whatever, you become a partner. So they understand what that person is missing. All right. Well, so what's number two?
Number two is they're on old technology. And this was something that I think about, like a web PT, and I have no connection to web PT, but they were created such a long time ago. Technology has advanced and changed. The servers, the platforms, like all of this stuff is so different today. I do think that you can't take the old infrastructure and put it on a new platform. So either they're going to have to rebuild everything, or, you know, I don't know enough about tech to understand how it works, but I was told that they're just using old infrastructure that can't get upgraded. They would need to start from scratch effectively to make a new EMR that's effective with what we have today. And then the third one is acquisition. So, okay, so why don't they just come in and acquire them, which they probably will. I think that's the most reasonable. You acquire a AI scribe to come on, but the numbers are high. We look at the valuations of AI scribes, even though they're new on the market, even though they don't have as many users, you're paying forward looking, you're paying for what are they gonna do, not what are they doing right now. And that's a big cash outlay, big investment to try and bring them in.
Yeah.
So,
I have a logo submission. I'd like to submit a logo. If you're going to be a prompt to Raintree, an EMR that brings on an AI scribe, this one's going to do it right here. This is the logo that would hit with like a 35 to 50-year-old like this. That's what Clippy was. He was going to be the guy that you ask questions in Microsoft Word and Excel, and like Clippy got you the answers. And it was more frustrating. People of my age or our age wanted to murder Clippy as much as they wanted to murder the dog from Duck Hunt who used to laugh at you when you missed ducks. So
sure.
I don't know. Maybe this is something, maybe it's got nostalgia value. Maybe you want to use Clippy.
One more thing on that. you also have to look at what's really happening outside of our profession. Why is Siri still Siri and not, they partnered with OpenAI, right? But like, why are we still asking Siri questions? Why is Alexa still Alexa? Why haven't those upgraded? If we can't get those to upgrade to real-time AI technology, like an EMR company is way smaller than Amazon or Apple. So I just think it's just not gonna happen. So that's why I still hitched my wagon to HippoScribe, to using an off EMR platform
I think that's
for
the way to
AI
go.
Scribe. Plus, the truth is, to Dave's point, I want to be able to be more versatile. If my AI Scribe is tied into my EMR, if I want to switch EMRs, that means I have to switch AI Scribes too.
Right.
You know, I would rather have that as a separate dedicated platform.
So this brings up something interesting. Is I did that interview. I don't know if you guys heard it with Larry Benz. Larry Benz came on the show, and he's got a newsletter or blog, whatever you want to call it. It's like, one of the Beehive platforms. He said, I heard on probably one of your podcasts that only about 20% of all licensed PTs in the country are treating patients. That was Larry's statistic. It was actually 19, I think. So there's another difficulty, right? Hey, well, 10,000 PT students become licensed PTs every single year. What's the problem? Well, I'm not a math guy, but 20% of 10,000 is 2,000. So now you're trying to compete for the new 2,000. And some of those 2,000 are going into business for themselves. So I don't know if I know, Tony, like you don't know if you want to get into this business, but that seems like a viable one. You have a product and a service that you can provide that people, the ikigai, right? Does the world need it? Are you good at it? Can you get paid for it? Do you like it? And then you've got 2,000, if the math is right, you have 2,000 new. We should do like a draft, man. I mean, at that point, you could do first round draft picks, right? You could have our own draft board if that's the number. So there's the math that proves Larry's math is proving everybody's pain point correct.
And he got to that number based off of the total number of completed therapy visits per calendar year or something, and then divided by.
He had some math.
It wasn't like complex, but I can't recall how he got to that.
Yeah.
And then part of what he said is that this also means that there's some percentage of therapists that are working in like admin roles or they're working part-time or they're PRN or whatever.
Right. Yeah. He talked about, really the crux of his article was like, how productive do we think we are? And he compared PTs to orthopedic surgeons and general practitioners. And the idea was so if you have a PT, what is the average in terms of patient visits see in a year? Tony, do you track that? Like, do you know like how many patients or patient visits? And he got a number. I want to see if it's close to it. It was
visits. It was visits. And by the way, I don't know how do you even get this? Like, how do you have you have access to like total claims data and like across like where every clearinghouse? Like how do you get? And also it out of network visits as well. And you're not counting any of the cash pay visits that are out of pocket across in New York City and every other city
I might guess he's Larry Benz and he's in touch with Confluence, so he's got a lot of math to play with. So if I was going to trust someone's math, I might trust Larry's math.
It could just be their numbers, and then he extrapolates it across however many geographies.
He had it in there. I was not remembering. Tony, what were you going to say?
To answer your question, yeah. So we would track total number of visits per episode of care. We would track total number of units per episode of care, average units per visit. We would be able to look at on a therapist or therapist assistant basis, how many units are they generating, how many plans of care, how many visits per plan of care. We would also look at tying those metrics to, new patient evaluations went up. All of a sudden, episode of care shortened because the therapists were getting overloaded. So like we would use that as a barometer to figure out, all right, what do we do? And that was the birth of some of the other programs. So we said, all right, every time evals, cross 10 new patients a week, our plans of care would suddenly shorten. Well, clearly there's a correlation here. How can we not discharge these patients, but give them an off-ramp to keep them in? Hence, we created the non-covered maintenance or the wellness program. And that's where I would go with this whole business idea. It's like, okay, we've got the back and forth. Do I recruit? Do I hire? Well, what if I can just create another way to provide the patient with the desired outcome that's not dependent on a licensed therapist? What if I let the licensed therapist only do what the licensed therapist does best and create other things that can still get the client the desired outcome? And what opened the door for that is increasing out-of-pocket expense. So if a patient's going to pay $50, they want to get what they want for a $50 copay. Can I deliver a better value to the patient as perceived by the patient for $50 or $40 or $30 compared to if they went somewhere else and paid that $50 copay? I believe I can. And so I don't think I need to hire therapists, because I think that I can create a solution to the patient's problem, not the insurance company's problem, for less out-of-pocket cost to the patient and a better patient care experience.
Yeah, it's like I almost want to go to ChatGPT and parallel the situation Tony's talking about, which is, what should a PT be doing the most percentage of their time? And the thing that comes across is, or and ChatGPT will do a better job. So I'll do that when we stop, and I'll share it, which is, Ford invented the assembly line, right? And I feel like it's efficient. You get really, really good, and you just do this one part. And when you put a bunch of people together, cars come out really fast. Outcomes come out really well. Quality stays high. But I feel like as physical therapists, and I was guilty of this too, we wanted to do every part of the assembly line. Well, my friends, less cars are going to come out. And you might say, but they're custom and they're pristine and they've been touched by me, and I know every part of that. And that is valuable, except we don't get paid on that. We get paid on how many cars roll out, or how many happy people drive how many miles and need a new car, or tell their friend about that car. So I feel like the assembly line metaphor or analogy, which one is that? A metaphor maybe, is the most accurate one. Because right now PTs want to meet the patient in the waiting room, do the eval, and be there the entire plan of care, touching as much as they can. Well, that's you walking along the assembly line. But while you're doing that, you're not doing the other things. So if you want to get paid the most, Tony, Dave, what do PTs get paid the most for? What can we bill the most for? What is the answer?
Valuation from a third-party payer's perspective. Now, I use that exact example in my Zero to Paid course. I have 3 pictures. I have a fully custom, literally a handmade car that sells for hundreds of thousands of dollars because it is so customized and takes so long to create. And I think the guy only creates like one every 2 years. I've got Ferrari, which I think rolls out about 8,000 cars in the hundreds of thousands per car. And then you've got typical Honda, Toyota, Ford, assembly line. And I drive a Honda. I drive a Toyota. Like, those are the 2 cars we have in the family. Why? They're reliable enough. They're affordable enough. They get the job done. I'm not driving them for prestige. I'm driving them for reliability and affordability. And it is the perfect solution. I am completely happy. Back to Jimmy's talk, and we always talk about the mill clinics. They're providing an affordable, accessible, solution that is clearly adequate for the consumer. If it wasn't, the consumer would stop going. And the consumer always has the opportunity to hire Dave at a little bit more of a price, but for a better experience. But they don't need it. They don't want it. They're content with what they're getting.
Some people want to get paid like they work at Ferrari, but they're get paid like they're working at Ford for the output, but they want to work at Ferrari. And you can pull these clinics off, right? Like you guys know about IPA, right? And it's not just beer related, the Institute of Physical Arts. Do you know those guys?
No, I don't.
Yeah. So like CEUs guys and like super deep into stuff, but they essentially, from what I've seen anyway, Ryan, I think is who I know. I'm blanking right now, but, they essentially teach people how to like be this high-end provider where if you're Ferrari and you're making 6,000, 8,000 cars a year, those cars are going to be expensive. If I'm your PT and you're coming in 2 or 3 times a week, or I'm on retainer or however the model, or I'm going to see you for 90 minutes, then you have to pay more because you have to now pay for 3 spots at a higher rate, because a lot of the clinicians like that, these higher end, they're going to be where the largest group of people are. And those are cities, and cities are expensive. And that's how math works.
Dave knows this better than anyone. Like, I'll give you a second. When I go to a restaurant for, our anniversary, I know I'm paying more for the white tablecloth and the heavy silverware. Like, I'm paying more for the server who's going to have more time to interact and answer my questions and has a better education about the menu. People are paying more for Dave to deliver that experience, and those people understand that.
This is great.
Right.
Chris comes in with the consumer doesn't know what the outcome could be. They think their outcome is Ferrari, but they're only getting Ford Pinto results. So this is product market fit, right? So this could be one of two directions, right? Like Dave's looks like he's sniffing sour milk. How are you reading this?
When they so Chris, when you say they think their outcome is Ferrari, are you saying like anyone that's like calling, like, I want to use my insurance, and do you accept GHI? It reimburses $35 a visit, and you think they're thinking that the result that they're deserving are going to get Ferrari? I just want some clarification, maybe.
Yeah, so this, how I'm reading it, that's the mastery of being the insurance company, because you get them in, you're the EMR, you sign them up, and then what gets produced is somebody else's responsibility. So it says the consumer doesn't know what the outcome could be. They think their outcome, so they think they're going to go in and get white glove service, but what they don't know any better. Yeah. They think they're going to go in there and get Ferrari, custom lambskin, seats and, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. They think they're going to get that, and they're getting Ford Pinto results. They even still make the Ford Pinto. I think that was the one that kept catching on fire. But here's my pushback, which is are you not communicating it right? Because like, I want to get back to like work, and I want to do it as cheaply as possible, because that's the thing. I don't really care about the experience. There are people who do care about the experience, and they're willing, and if they're able to pay more, they will pay more, because a Ferrari gets me to work the same as a Honda does. It just makes me look a little bit more badass. I don't have a Ferrari, by the way. But if Ferrari wants to sponsor the show, we're open for possibilities.
The challenge with all this, and Chris, thank you so much for commenting and engaging live here. The challenge with all this is, and Tony said it a million times, there are percentages of the population where they want that in-network experience. They don't like they pay their copay, but some of these people are putting this physical therapy visit on the calendar, and that's like their whole day. Like, they're like, this is my thing. I can't wait to go. I want to talk to Mary, the front desk person. I'll go 30, 45 minutes early. I'll do my therapy visit. I'll stay in the lobby and talk to Mary again for another 30 or 45 minutes until they kick me out, or they'll give me some water and coffee. I'll use their restroom, whatever. Like, some people, that's what they want. And those people cannot fathom paying us $250, $350, whatever per visit. And then the inverse, then there's the people that pay for us, and they detest that experience of a doctor's office or a therapy office or whatever. That is the challenge of being in business, because all these people are walking around all the time, and you have to learn who's who and all that. So yeah.
How do you tell? Chris has actually got a really cool business model. She does occupational health. Like, so she goes into like, she goes into like businesses, like warehouses and like big industrial places. That's her client. And then she treats those people because the client, this is a great example. Like, Chris would be fun to have on the show, and I've had her on my show before. She understands who her client is. In her triangle is the client hires her as the business. That's who hires her, because they understand for every single day of missed work, it's this much money lost because they got to bring in somebody else for overtime, or keeping that person injured, what that does to their bottom line. So like, I don't know, Chris might be talking to the perfect client, in my opinion, because they truly understand what a PT can save them, and they're willing to pay that direct to employer.
And there's more and more therapists. There's more independent cash payer out of network, whatever therapists doing this. And then of course there's the big groups also doing this. The big groups are going to the big employers because they have strength in numbers. They're like, hey, we have extra therapists. We can supply them. We can put them anywhere. Here in the East Coast, JAG PT, they have ATCs at all the high school football, all the games, all the practices, all that. They use that as a funnel. Yeah. And I'm surprised you didn't read this out loud, Jimmy. This is a cocktail thing. You got to read it.
If you ever have, if you only ever have pre-mixed margaritas, you think that's the best margarita, and you don't know any different. Hold on.
Amen.
If you only have pre-mixed margarita, it is the best margarita you've ever had, unless you've also gone to Mexico or had just a banging margarita. Chris, dropping analogies. I like it. All right, we got 7 minutes left. What do we want to end on? And then we'll do parting shots.
Let me do my parting shot because I'm going to go early because I've got a new patient coming in. It's all about pushing outside your comfort zone. Going to PPS was way outside my comfort zone. I go through all the emotional roller coaster of like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Oh, I don't want to do it. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I was pumped. I was terrified. Then driving up there, I listened to all my business podcasts, the whole 9-hour drive. And then the second I see the first face I saw at PPS, even before I saw Jimmy, was Robbie from Rehab CEOs. Robbie was sitting there in the lobby. His face went from 2D for the last 5 years to 3D. And immediately all the anxiety went away. I was so happy I went. It was such a great experience. I'm looking forward to seeing if we get the trio and go to CSM in Houston.
I'm saying it right now. It's October 15th. So now it's on record. I would love to see these two things. I would love to do what Tony and I did in PPS, which was we took the phone and we took like a wireless mic and we were just like Alex Lieberman. We're just Johnny on the spot, 20-minute interviews. I would also love to see, and I mentioned this to a few people, right? Planting the seeds in October now for October next year, or CSM in February, which is like, where's the college game day? And we flirted with this idea a couple of years ago. I mentioned it to somebody at APTA Communications, and they did. They built like a media center where they had mics and they had like just plug your laptop in, and very few people sort of used it because this is simple, what we do. It's not easy. I'm not trying to overcomplicate it, but what I'm saying is like doing that as your business is difficult. But like you don't need a media center anymore, baby. Like this is the media center. It's always been going towards that. So I'm putting it out there that in October of 2024, either PPS next year or CSM in just a couple months, I would love to see college game day. I want to see Tony or Dave put on a mascot head. What's Prompt's mascot? I want like a big head. I want the web PT head. I want to do that. I want signs in the background. I want kids kicking field goals for scholarships to PT school.
Real quick, I'm stepping out. Go to PT Pintcast. Take a look at the 3 live interviews we did. Yeah. Tell us what you guys think about that. I can't imagine every single business in the exhibit hall isn't doing something like this. It's just crazy to me. I'll catch you guys on Thursday.
Yeah. Somebody had a great line, which was, imagine I gave you a tool, Dave, 20 years ago, that with that tool, I just handed it to you. It costs less than $1,000 and it gives you unfettered access to reach anybody you want. You'd be like, I will pay for that tool. And like, we have that tool. And I'm not saying organic is the only way to go. It's not. But you can take that tool, create a video, put $100 behind it. Ads are, I mean, in my opinion, if you really wanted to dial down, do what you're doing, which is ads. But then the third thing that we talked about, which was go shake hands. Like, even if you make no connections at PPS, you're like sitting amongst people. You're like, oh, I'm having the same exact problem as you. How'd you solve it? And then shut up and listen to how people do it. These are the people who aren't bitching in Facebook groups. They're out there solving those problems. They're like, you know what? I'm not going to bitch about it. I'm going to drop $3-4 grand, bring myself and my front office manager, and we're going to solve this problem. Will saying, we're speaking my language. Forced targeted distribution. If you had let me ask, you know what? I'm not going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask Will this question. And Will, I want a live stream where you and I answer it. The question is, if you lost everything tomorrow and you had to borrow $1,000 from Nana to get your business back to what it was or grow it, I know the answer, but I want to hear you explain why. If you had $1,000, what would you do? And the answer is ads. I'm going to answer for Will, but now I want the why, the behind it. What's your parting shot, Dave? I think I just gave mine. It was just a ramble.
Parting shot is more. I'm more in a contemplation stage right now about CSM because my gut is saying, what would be the ROI for me to go spend time and effort and all that? No VC money. But at the same time, maybe you guys can convince me, or maybe I can convince myself on CSM because of what I said about the EMR vendors meeting the practice owners in person, and maybe CSM is right for me, or I can hire some folks to be at a booth or whatever, or do some marketing there. And do something wild that gets attention for my offer like for a full-time therapist. and maybe have therapists either relocate or they're in the New York City area or whatever, and use CSM potentially as a way for some in-person recruiting and meeting therapists?
You've just written the title of a future video that I'm going to share, a future episode, which is, and I love, these were like the Twitter posts and LinkedIn posts like 8 months ago that all started like this. 98% of people are using LinkedIn wrong. Here's what the top 2% are doing. I honestly believe, I don't know what the number is, but I think most people do CSM wrong. I think practice owners do look at CSM and PPS, and their two conferences, and they're like, if I'm going to put the money down, go to PPS. I don't disagree, right? I also think you can get enough to make it worth it to go to CSM. First of all, the ticket at PPS is $1,500. I'm not saying it's not worth it. It's highly concentrated, right? Ticket for CSM is $500. So now we're 33% cheaper, and you have 8. So there's a clinical on top of that. So I will lay out a plan to take a Dave Kittle and push him one way or the other on the fence if they should, because I'm not saying everybody should, but I'm going to give you check boxes. Like, if you want to do this and this and this and this and this, you could, and I'll do like a value counter. I'll have like a cash register. Cha-ching. That's an extra $200. Cha-ching. All right.
And some of the numbers are there, right? So it's a lower cost ticket for a practice owner, like a practice owner, that wants to grow and wants to hire more therapists. So it's a lower dollar amount, but also the attendees, like there's a larger pool of attendees, right? And it's going into it. It's like, if I'm recruiting and I'm, networking, I'm trying to get like names, email, phone number, contact information, whatever for therapists.
Right.
There's a lot more therapists there. So I would have to figure out like, what's the lead capture? Is it, an iPad and I'm getting their information?
But then the flip side is, because there's 18,000, you have to do more and spend more to stand out. So it's like, I'm not going to argue one way or the other. I'm not going to convince the person watching the Dave Kittle to go or not to go. I'm going to merely present the facts. All right. We're at an hour. I need to go get the voice all tuned up at the ENT. We'll be back on Thursday. Actually, Tony and I are going to go live. 6 things we learned specifically at PPS this year. So if you couldn't attend, you're going to get that $1,000 value for 30 minutes. Dave, have a good day, man.
The PT Pinecast is a product of PT Pinecast LLC. It is hosted and produced by PT Pinecast CEO Jim McKay and CBO Sky Donovan from Marymount University. We talk PT, drink beer, and record it. This has been another pour from the PT Pinecast. The PT Pinecast is intended for educational purposes only. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can be present. More on the show at ptpinecast.com.
Today's episode brought to you by Owens Recovery Science, a single source for PTs who want to add personalized blood flow restriction rehabilitation training to their clinical practice. Get certified at owensrecoveryscience.com. The all-in-one outpatient PT EMR built on automation. That's Empower EMR. They empower owners, physical therapists, billers, and your front desk to profitably provide the best possible patient care experience. Find them online at empoweremr.com. That is empoweremr.com.